I've already done a video on predicting each of the first round matches. As I said before in that, also that this is nothing to do with betting. I'll do that later on. In here I'm just going to go through each match in turn, just quickly give a winner. Some of these I go more in depth. So we'll start here in the first round with Luke Littler versus Darius Nabanauskas. As I said in my preview, it's not the easiest type of Littler necessarily, but he will win. Super Mario, David Davis, Super Mario wins that one. Joe Cullen Bradley books a rare time save going against the averages. Hard to call, as probably Bradley books a slightly better record this year than Joe Cullen. Cullen's certainly better this year than last year. But Cullen there, I think, has a better record on TV this year than Bradley Books does. Hopefully Cullen wins here with a bit more gracious interview than he gave last year after beating Vessel Nyman. Let's see if it's David Cameron again. I'm going for the lower average actually of David Cameron. David Cameron's had a good record on the seniors tour. I mean, what meant has never really been his tournament, maybe famous losing to Fallon Sherrick. So I'll give Cameron just the edge of that one. Then Hector, Steve Lennon, Hector wins that. Barney beats Stefan Belmont. Rob Cross will beat Cord Decker. Tough one, as I said before in my preview video, Ian White, Mervyn King. And Widger's actually going to give it to Mervyn King. That's what we have, just enough in favour of Ian White. I think he'll edge that one. It'll be a tough one. Interestingly, if Rob Cross and Mervyn King win, have the sort of £500,000 tax owers thing with Cross's company and Mervyn King for mixing up winnings and earnings. Chris Dobie, Xiao Zhengyong, high averages of both of them this year actually. So Dobie, it's always a possibility with Dobie. He's better on the floor than he is on the TV, despite his Masters win. So it's not a total outside shock. He might get turned over here, despite having a 6 on ranking in the averages. But Dobie should win. Gilding, Crabtree. I'm going to go Rando Gilding in this one actually. There's a lot of people talking about Cam Crabtree winning. Gilding's one of my favourite players. That's not why I'm actually brought him as doing Ian White, Mervyn King. The advantages of the averages of Gildings. And I think, although he's not quite played was a couple of years ago when he won the UK Open, I'll give the edge to him. Luke Woodhouse, both Christmas and Luke Woodhouse. Martin Lukeman, Max Hopp are going for a crash. Lukeman, going Price, I'm going Price. Tough one here, Lucas Venning, Bentley Plazier. I'm giving the edge to Plazier, but that could go either way. Ryan Joyce, Owen Bates going for Ryan Joyce. Christoph Ratajski, Alexis Toiler going for Ratajski. Stephen Bunting, Sebastian Milecki, I'm going for Bunting. Richard Venstra, Nito Kumar, I'm going for Venstra. Dylan Davenboda, Andy Batins are going for Dirt. James Howell, Stowe Bunts. I think this is a tough one to call. I'm actually going against the averages again with Stowe Bunts, but again I think that can easily go either way. Martin Schindler, Stephen Burton go for Martin Schindler. Keen Barry, Chip Pussy. I'm actually again going against the averages here. Pussy doing very well at a lower level, of course, in the Australian tour. And Barry had a quarter-final last Porto, but on the whole I think he's been a little disappointing this year, so I'm going to give the edge to Pussy. Ryan Searle, Chris Lamb, give it to Ryan Searle. Bennett Dolly, Travis Dudney has done brilliantly to get here. He's 8.5 down the averages, so I'll give that to Dolan. Dominic Clayton, Amblin Lipscomb, give it to Clayton. Dom Taylor, Oscar Lukasic, I'll give him to Taylor. Michael Smith, Lisa Ashton, there's a massive difference in the averages here. I mean, Smith's he's had a poor couple of years, especially since winning world title, but he's mile in front of the averages here, so Michael Smith will win this one. There was Zonneveld, Hapa Puha going to Zonneveld. Ross Smith for Andreas Harrison going for Ross Smith. Chupa Chikol, Montezuma Sakai. I think Chikol, despite a couple of quarterfinals Porto, has been a little disappointing, so again, going against the averages and going for Japanese player to win. Dave Chisholm, Fallon Sherrick. Chizzy's badly off form. He was nearly in the Premier League last year, and compared to what he was 2 years ago, he's really on the downgrade and a few problems. Fallon Sherrick had a great record once back in beating Ted Everton and Silovic. That's a long time ago now. She hasn't won a match since then. And Chizzy it's always possible to be vulnerable, but I think Chizzy's too much advantage of the averages. Conor Petretska goes to Sousa. I'm going against the averages again here. It's a tricky one to call this, and again, one of the ones could go either way. Now, Sousa's one of my favourite players, possibly my favourite player, and delighted he got through. It's not why I'm going for him again. This time round, Petretska, I think, has problems in his form in this country. He did well last year in the World, turning over both Jan Van Veen and Scott Williams, producing an absolutely shocking performance against Nathan Aspinall. And De Sousa, it's been greatest record here actually, but I just have my feeling he might just edge this. It's getting very, very close, and on a personal level I hope De Sousa wins. It's horrible one to call, and I'm going for him, but it could go either way. Luke Humphries, Ted Everett, Luke Humphries, Jeffrey DeGraff, Paul Lim. I would love Paul Lim to win, a legend of the game, and I hope he quits himself well. I hope he gets a great reception, but Jeffrey DeGraff is just too far ahead of the averages, I think, for that one. Vessel Nyman, Kadlor, Sedlacek. Vessel Nyman was a bit disappointing last year. I thought you get to final 16, but he just didn't do enough against Joe Cullen. I think he'll still win this one, but you never know. But he's got a bad record on the TV Wrestle 9 at the minute, and I've said before, is that because of the effects with match fixing? Does he think that people are watching the game are thinking of it? I don't know, it just seems to do badly on the TV. The video I did was really, but that's a 9 man's actual poor TV record. That's in this country. He's got a decent Euro Tour record, in fact, which is of course televised at a slightly lower level than in this country. And this year he's had 2 semi-finals and 2 quarterfinals. And it's not that he can't perform in this country. It's an exceptional finish to his Pro Tour campaign. It was one in order: semi-final, second round, quarterfinal, fourth round, semi-final win, quarterfinal, semi-final win. So it seems he can't perform on TV in this country. He can perform in this country clearly. A UK TV he cannot perform. It's very interesting. Gabriel Clemens, Alex Sperm, Gabriel Clemens. Nick Laspinall, Lois Logan go for the Asp. Again against the averages here, Mickey Mansell, Leonard Gates. And there's another Mansell. He had a great one last year, reaching the semi-final of the Grand Slam. He's hit the quarterfinals a couple of Pro Tours this year, but he's been a bit erratic really. He's better than last year, but I think Gates, he obviously had beating a rather distressed Cameron Menzies last year. On his day he can do something brilliant. He's not, again, something he can't. But I just think that maybe just have the edge there. But again, it's going to be a close game. Mike Decker, David Minaya. First ever Kenyan to qualify, but it's literally nearly 19 difference in averages, so Decker wins that one. Kevin Dewitt's, Matthew Dennett. Closing the averages, but Dewitt's did well. He always that famous win of Michael Smith, so Dewitt's I'll have for this one. James Wade, Rishi Hashimoto. Hopefully Wade won't do what he did to in the past, yelling at a Japanese player. Rather disturbing effort there. Wade's not won a match for quite a few years in the Worlds. Now, since his semi-final last one in 2022, he's actually gone out his first match 3 years in a row. Have asked him a second round at the first round, so he should win here, safely enough. How far he gets, though, is another matter. Rick Evans, Man Luke Lung. It's not the right to Man Lung could get a win here. Rick Evans is a very popular character, especially on the TV. I think Evans, going on with his Christmas music, I think he'll do enough to win this one. Tough on it, Cameron Menzies, Tony Manby, and I admitted in my main video I did not know much about Tony Manby. He's really doing well now as on the Motor Super Series. He's a star player. I've talked of him actually all since I did that video. I haven't put that on the internet yet, but actually there's talk of Manby since then as well. And I put some money on him actually to win outright, just a huge prize, 6-7 to 1 on Betfair. And Cameron Menzies had a disastrous match. Again, I thought he'd get a top 6 to final 16 last year, and he had just a meltdown. There's no such way of putting it, against Leonard Gates. I'm going to go for Manby. It's going to be close, and I think Manby could turn Cameron Menzies over. Matt Campbell, Adam Cerveda, not quite close to the averages, but I think I'll go for Matt Campbell. Jan van Veen, Crystal Ways is interesting. Crystal Ways pushed Van Gogh very close in a brilliant game actually, where Ways got 100 average in losing. And Van Veen has actually not won a match yet in the World Championships. He lost in the first round 2 years ago, and last year as a seed lost in the second round. He should beat Ways, but I'm not writing this off. I did say that Van Veen would not. I thought he might not do well in the European Championship when I did a video on that, because he won it. But his record of this country is nowhere near as good as his record in Europe. But I will give Van Veen should safely have win it, well, really. Alan Suter, Chimahal, Sugar Alan Suter. Dimitri Vandenberg, Dan Beveridge. Now, I'm not sure his favourite, I can look this up. The average is actually in favour of Dan Beveridge this year. I'm going to just give the edge to Dimitri Vandenberg. He's got a much better record on the TV than he does on the floor. As he got a quarter-final Pro Tour, his final tournament, and on the whole, though, he's been really poor this year in terms of his form. And actually, like Van Gerwen, he missed out on the Players' Championship this year. Van Gerwen, I can understand maps because of his unfortunate issues with his private life. Maybe he's got other commitments, part of it, perhaps he's got things he's constantly on. That's not the case with Dimitri Vandenberg, but I think it's just TV record. I think he's enough popularity. I think he will win that, but he certainly could go the other way. Midas Rasma, Jermaine Van der Hennick, going to go Rasma. Michael Van Gerwen, Mitsaki Tsunami, go for MVG. Willie O'Connor, Christoph Chuk, go for Willie O'Connor. Peter White, Noel Van Leuven, I go for Peter White. Kim Hybex, Anna Merckx. That's the opening match of the World Championship. Petulant Kim Hybex. I've already said in my previous video about this. I was there at Ali Pali when Hybex threw an embarrassing dart, frankly, doing his act to lose to Dimitri Vandenberg when he lost in the fourth round. He'll win this game, I assume. It wouldn't surprise me if he tanked totally and lost it. And he's 8 ahead of the averages, but I'm afraid, however, his attitude is been a bit out of control sometimes, and I think he could certainly blow the game. And I wouldn't be interested. I wouldn't want Erna Merksoff winning the game at all. Guy Anderson, Adam Hunt, Guy Anderson, Connor Scott, Simon Whitlock going against the averages again here. I'm going for Simon Whitlock, the Wizard back again. He'll have some popularity. Connor Scott's really been poor this year on the Pro Tour compared to the previous 3 years. He's certainly off form, and so I think Whitlock can turn the averages over. Jim Watamina, Dominic Gulick. Watamina should safely win this one, but I said about him, Dirk van Dijvenbode and Cameron Menzies. But all three of them, I think, can be a bit erratic. I'm the sort of people who, if I have a bad 3 darts, I don't seem to let it go. And what I mean, can sort of tank a bit and be rather disappointing. He actually, when he lost to Richie Edhouse in the European Championship final last year, he lost very heavily. And Edhouse isn't the greatest player, frankly. I'll get to him in a minute. And so what I mean, falling apart would not be impossible here. Scott Williams, Palin the Breeder, both sort of feisty-ish sort of characters. Scott Williams should win it though. Danny Noppet, Jurgen Vandervelde, Danny Noppet. Slightly against averages here. Nick Kenny is Justin Hood. Justin Hood has a lead of 1 of the averages, but Nick Kenny did well last year, so I'll go for him. Richie Edhouse, Johnny Tartar. I'm going again against the averages here. Edhouse, I have to say, does not have a good record here at all. I remember actually watching this on the TV, his 2023-2024 campaign, where he was 2-0 up and cruising, and lost both matches 3-2. And last year he lost to Ian White 3-1. Ian White's one of my favourite players, but his record on the Worlds is pretty poor for his ability as general TV, to be honest with Ian White. It's pretty poor. Got quarters in 2014, but his TV record's been quite bad. And the Worlds, Edhouse, he's got a couple of second rounds, and then in the past, he's not won a match for 3 years now. And I think I'm very tempted there to say, Johnny Tartar can actually take him out. Ryan Miko Jesus Salute. Originally, when I will say my main video, I originally actually had Salute possibly winning this. I didn't win the gap average just quite as large as it was. And so I think Miko will probably win. But Salute had some good results actually in the Americas, and it wouldn't be impossible to see him do something against Ryan Meikle, but now decided Ryan Meikle will probably win. Josh Rock never hated Josh Rock. Nicholas Springer, Joe Comito, Nicholas Springer. Darryl Gurney Bogu is one of the ones I really spent most time on, perhaps, in my preview video. It is really difficult to call this one. I've ended up actually edging in favour of Darryl Gurney, who I think won't be intimidated by the atmosphere. He seems to, I don't wonder if he just likes the crowd going at him actually. He certainly react, but I don't think it really necessarily affects him. Bogu's had chances, and just for I'm concerned about Bogu's, if she hasn't taken the chances she had, like with Grand Slam against Anderson and Van Goon, she probably should have won both games and didn't take the chance. She got a great reach of a little, but that was not on the TV. Not even streamed actually. I wonder if that will change. How often it probably will change. I think there's still some streaming for World Youth in the future. And then there was Close Pan Van Veen, which was on the TV. I would like to see a win, but I think it's more tougher one to call. I'm going factionally for Darryl Gurney and Callan Ridge. Patrick Kovacs will go for Callan Ridge. Second round, Luke Litter to beat Super Mario. Joe Cullen to beat David Cameron. Hector Barney, fascinating match. If that comes up, I'm going for Hector. Even though Hector still has not a greatest TV record, too many Barney soaks, and I think he might win his opening game, but I don't think he'll get any further. Rob Cross, Ian White, Rob Cross, despite the fact Walker's badly off form. Ian White, I'd love to see Ian White do well, but I think he doesn't act on TV enough. Dobie Gilding, Chris Dobie, Luke Woodhouse, Martin Lukeman. It's a different sort of Luke battle here. I'm going for Luke Woodhouse though. Geraint Price, Wesley Plazier. I can't really see Geraint Price not winning this one. Ryan Joyce, Christopher Tyneskill for Ryan Joyce. Deep in Bunting, Richard Vainstra going for Bunting. Dirk van Dijvenbode, Stowe Bunts going for Dirk van Dijvenbode. Martin Schindler, Tim Pousse going for Martin Schindler. Ryan Searle, Brendan Dolan. Searle's not one of my favourite players. I don't race the record of his tournament, but Dolan's not quite the player he was, I think. He had, of course, quarterfinal not that many years ago, but I think he's on the downgrade, and so I'll go for Ryan Searle. Johnny Clayton, Dom Taylor go for Johnny Clayton. Michael Smith, Neil Zonderveld go for Michael Smith. Ross Smith, Marto Saki, I'm going to go for Ross Smith. Dave Chisnell, Jose de Souza. Neither greatly on form for the last year, but Chisnell's got better form than de Souza, so I'll go for Chisnell. Luke Humphries, definitely graph Luke Humphries. Russell Nyman, Gabriel Clemens. Clemens not the player he was by any means when he got to semis 3 years ago. I think he was there when he beat Alan Suter in the fourth round, and then he had a bizarre Geraint Price issue with his headphones the year afterwards. So maybe lucky to get how far as he did, and the Vesselheim through that one. Nick Aspinall, Leonard Gates, Nick Aspinall. Mike Decker, Kevin Dukes, Mike Decker, James Wade, Ricky Evans. I'm not sure about this one actually. I'm going to go for James Wade. It could go either way, that though. If Ricky Evans gets some momentum, he's playing quite well this year. Might get 4 semi-finals. Wade, it's not really his tournament, this one at all, compared to the other majors. So I'll give it to Wade, could go either way. Charlie Manby, Matt Campbell. I think Charlie Manby can win this. In fact, I think that this will be easier time than the one against Cameron Menzies, actually. Whoever he plays, to Matt Campbell and Mr. Vader, I think if Manby beats Menzies, he'll beat either of those two as well. Jan van Veen, Alan Suter. Jan van Veen, I'm saying, I'm not convinced about him as his 2 first match defeats in the past in this tournament, but I think if he gets going, he'll start winning games. Dimitri Vandenberg, actually gone for Madis Wasmer, wasn't too sure about this one. Vandenberg, I say, he's 2 off form, I think. Really, I think he might get through one game because of TV popularity, perhaps, but not maybe another one. Michael Van Gerwen, Willie O'Connor, Michael Van Gerwen. Peter White, Kim Hybers. That could be a feisty one between the two of them, I have to say. I think both have a little lucky draw, possibly, because neither of them were in form at all. White's better than Hybers, so Peter White is my tip there. Sam Anderson, Simon Whitlock, a battle of the old golden oldies in a way. I'll go for Guy Anderson. Jermaine Watamina, Scott Williams could be interesting. Could be a bit of a feist on that one as well, because Scott Williams is certainly a bit boisterous, and Watamina can be a little on the edge as well. I'm going to go for Jermaine Watamina, in better form than Scott Williams. Danny Noppert, Nick Kenny, Danny Noppert. Johnny Tartar, Ryan Meikle. I was saying I'm not writing on Joseph Society getting through against Ryan Meikle, but it's Tartar and Meikle. I'm going to give it to Johnny Tartar, actually getting to the 3rd round. Josh Rock, Nicholas Springer, fascinating game this one. Nicholas Springer certainly having an excellent season, but I'm going to give it to Josh Rock. Darryl Gurney, Callum Ridge. Callum Ridge an excellent World Championship last year, but sadly hasn't really kicked on, so we say, from that. So I'll give a victory to Darryl Gurney. I think Bo Greaser would have a very good test of Callum Ridge, so I'm giving Callum Ridge's form bar the World Championship last year. I think actually Bo Greaser, I think again, as in something here, I think Bo Greaser and Darryl Gurney would beat whoever between would actually either would beat Callum Ridge. Final 32, Luke Littler, Joe Cullen, Luke Littler. Damon Head to Rob Cross. I'm going to give it to Rob Cross here, despite both are sort of going down the rankings. Rob Cross has a much better TV record over Damon Heta. Chris Dobie, Luke Woodhouse. Dobie again, better with Flory than the TV, but I'm going to give it edge to Dobie. Geraint Price, Ryan Joyce. Again, another one. Geraint Price better on the floor than on the TV, but I'm going to give him to beat Ryan Joyce. Stephen Bunting and Ivan Boulder could be interesting when that one happens. I'm going to give it to Stephen Bunting. Might see Ryan Searle, and again I'll admit Ryan Searle is one of my favourite players. I'm going to him beating Schindler, but that's mainly, I think, because Schindler's got a bad record on majors, as Ryan Searle does as well. But I think Schindler's better in Europe. It's actually it's a rather useful draw for either of them, because I don't think either of them are probably happy playing each other in a way, but neither of them are great on the TV, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I thought there was a Euro Tour final I saw earlier this year, where Schindler won because Ryan Searle kept missing doubles. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to give you edge Ryan Searle back, easily go either way. Johnny Clayton, Michael Smith, fascinating match. I'm hoping it's come back a little bit into form. We've got Grand Slam qualifiers, he got through that. But Clayton's had a much better year this year than last year, and he lost his form a little, to an extent, a little bit then. So I'll give it to Joe, get Johnny Clayton with this one. Warsmith, Dave Chisner, neither of them have a great, well, Warsmith doesn't have the greatest record in this tournament. I was on a live video I put a comment on. Strangely said Warsmith seemed to have a decent record. They seem to bring the best out of him, and he's never got past the 3rd round. I think he will this year, because Chisner's just off form, so I'll give the edge to Warsmith, but that could go either way. Luke Humphries, Vessel Nyman, interesting match with Vessel Nyman. I'm saying well, Vessel Nyman, I don't think he's got Vessel on TV. Luke Humphries, Nathan Aspinall, Mike Decker. Decker hasn't really gone on from a Grand Slam, but Aspinall better for me was last year, certainly. Had a poor year last year, despite and wrongly he might have got into the. I know a number of people think this. One, he got into the Premier League, even though he did well and get into the semi-finals. But Aspinall much better this year, so I'm going to give it to Aspinall. James Wade, Charlie Manby. I'm going to give it to James Wade, but Charlie Manby could easily win this game as well. He could go really start getting onto a run. So I'm going to give it to Wade, but I'm not sure about that. Jan van Veen, might as well. Van Veen, I think, gets going. You go on a run like he did European Championship finals. So Jan van Veen, Michael Van Gerwen, Peter White, another classic. Of course, 2 World Finals already, 1 each. But Peter was not the player he was. I know Van Gerwen's had a poor year with his unfortunate problems, partly with his private life, very sadly. But Peter was not the player he is. He's basically turned up for a tournament a year, the last few years, and he hasn't turned up one yet. And this was his tournament in the year was actually this last one last year, I'm not sure I can see it happening again though until Van Gogh wins that one. Guy Anderson, Jermaine Wattimino. This is going to be a hard one to call, and I'm going to give it to Guy Anderson. I'm really not sure about that though. It depends if he sort of turns up or not in a way. Yeah, I mean basically it's a tough one if they play each other. I'm going to give it to Anderson. It could go either way. Then up at Johnny Tartar. I'm afraid it's Tartar to Johnny. Don Up wins it. And Josh Walker, Darryl Gurney, that happens. That would be a fun one. The two World Cup winners playing each other, and I can't really see Josh Walker not winning that one. Still needs to find some TV form. He's actually best of one here with the 4th round, in fact, when he beat Rob Cross but lost to Johnny Clayton. But I think Walker wins this match. And on 16, Luke Littler, Rob Cross. Can't see Luke Littler not winning that one. Chris Dobie, Geraint Price. A repeat of a quarter-final last year. This time, though, despite wanting Dobie to win, he's a fellow person from Newcastle. I think Geraint Price is in better form than Dobie. Both better, I'd say, on floor than on TV. But Price is better form, I think, than Dobie this year. So we'll quiz Geraint Price of that one. David Bunting, Ryan Searle. Love Ryan Searle, but I think Bunting, who's not been good this year as last year. But I think Bunting takes that one. Johnny Clayton, Ross Smith. Said Smith's not best record really in this tournament. And Clayton doesn't hunt for time. We've got quarterfinals. I think that's his best when he beat Josh Rock. But I think he gets a one here and he takes out Ross Smith. Luke Humphries, Nathan Aspinall. Could be interesting one that happens, but I can't see Humphries not winning it. James and Jan Van Veen. I mean, I can see Wade wading it here. But I mean, Charlie Manby is not out of question. He could end up playing Luke Humphries because Van Veen and James Wade has not been good at World Champs for years. Doesn't have a good record in World Champs in recent years. Van Veen's lost both his 2 games. Manby, if he gets going, he could be in the final 8 here. It's not out of question. A match I expect to happen last year, Michael Van Gogh and Gary Anderson, and I actually thought Gary Anderson could win that game, in fact. This year, I think, Van Gogh, despite his awkward family problems, I think Van Gogh wins it. Danny Noppert, Josh Rock, criminally underrated Danny Noppert, and I think he just edges this one. It's going to be close, but he's Mr. Consistent, and Josh Rock, some haven't turned up totally on the TV, and so I think Noppert gets through that one. Luke Littler, Geraint Price, has some great games this year. I'm going to give it to Littler. Stephen Bunting, Johnny Clayton. Clayton, I think, has had a better year this year than Bunting has, and I think he's got, it's in the majors. But it's, again, a lot of good floor form. He's actually won tournaments this year. He kept getting the finals and losing last year. But actually, I think Johnny Clayton's got his TV form back, and I think he wins this one. Luke Humphries, James Wade. Is Charlie Manby going to come through all of it? No, I think if Manby gets this far, he loses to Luke Humphries. I don't there's any doubt of that. So Humphries beats whoever he plays, probably James Wade. And Michael Van Gogh and Danny Noppert, Mr. Consistent Danny Noppert, but I think MVG, if he could, the top end of MVG game is ahead of Danny Noppert's game, so we'll win that. For semi-finals, Luke Littler, Johnny Clayton. I can't go against Luke Van Nuke really. Clayton's a good one, but I think that's where it ends. And Luke Humphries and Michael Van Gogh. Again, I can't see it's going to be very boring this, but Luke Humphries will beat Michael Van Gogh. And in my view, Luke Littler beats Luke Humphries. It's a boring answer, and I think there's some upsets during the way of this tournament, but I'm afraid with world number 1 and world number 2, it will go away with world number 1.